When was the best time for you to transition? Yesterday. When is it the second best time? Today. But in reality, can it ever be too late to transition? Hi, I'm Kira, a transgender woman who shares my experience of transitioning from male to female. I began my medical and social transition when I was 31. Is it scary to make such important decision and change your life drastically? Yes, definitely. Is it too late for it? No. And today we'll talk more about why it's not too late to transition in your 30s, 50s, or even 80s, and why you should not waste your time anymore. Before we start, let me tell you about two women whose names you probably know. Lana Wachowski. She transitioned in her early 40s, and she is well known as co-director of The Matrix and Cloud Atlas. Caitlyn Jenner began her transition at 65. She's a former Olympic gold medalist and reality TV star. Both of them prove that it's never too late to change your life and transition. And here's another example, not as famous. Me. Let's talk about my experience. I've often asked myself how my life would have changed if I had begun this journey when I was younger, when I didn't have a family or two kids, when I hadn't invested so much in my home, when I didn't already have a close circle of people, and, perhaps most importantly, when my body wasn't exposed to testosterone for so long. I don't know the answer. For me, it's the same as wondering what could have happened if I had been born into a different family. No one knows. It's pointless because you don't know how these people would have treated you and how would you have changed. I can only imagine, with my current experience and knowledge, what could have happened if I realized that I'm a transgender woman earlier and began my transition many years ago. But back then, I had neither knowledge nor experience. It took me more than 30 years to grow up, finally understand myself, gather courage, and find the right conditions to start. In my case, I had to go through a series of difficult events, hard losses, depression, and even migration to another country. If I had been younger, could I have handled everything? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. This is my path, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. You will have your own path and timeline. For many years, I couldn't even associate myself with the LGBTQ+ community. I never blamed anyone in community, but I was 100% sure I wasn't one of them. Now I speak openly and freely for us. Could I have done this earlier? Could I have stood against the negativity, accusations, and insults from the strangers, and more painfully, from the people closest to me at that time? I don't know. Remembering how incongruent I was back then, I have my doubts. You've probably noticed how often I say, I don't know. And that is the key idea. We can't predict the future, and we can't change the past, but we do have the present. We know our resources and abilities right now. You can wait for a mystical sign, someone telling you to transition, or the moment when you will have everything you need. But that moment is unlikely to come. If you are watching this video, this is your sign. Whether it's YouTube's algorithm, fate, or a pure chance, something has brought you here. No one else can decide for you to transition. Only you know yourself, and only you can feel what you feel, and you will never be fully prepared or have everything you might need in your future transition. It's like having your first baby. No matter how much you prepared, during your first week you will realize you don't need half of the things you bought, and you've overlooked others, crucial ones. Transitioning is similar. There is no point in waiting. You can't stop the time, and you can only waste your present. Speaking of waiting, let me share a heartbreaking story. I met a woman online who shared her story with me. She is 72. Recently, she started her medical and social transition. We had a long talk, but one thing she said engraved itself in my mind. I knew I was a transgender woman since my 20s. But I couldn't transition because I was married. I didn't want to hurt my wife, so I waited. I began transitioning only after she passed, and I never told her about myself. Now I'm happy, but I wish I hadn't waited. She spent nearly 50 years hurting herself to avoid hurting someone else. For me, it's a tragedy of self-sacrifice, and sadly, her story isn't unique. On the other hand, I have a friend, possibly watching this video, who transitioned at 60. 5 years into her transition, and she is having a new, loving relationship. She recently sent me photos of herself heading to meet her partner after a long trip. What struck me most was her open, sincere, and happy smile. She was glowing. Both women transitioned later in life. Both struggled, but made hard decision. Both call themselves happy. The older we get, the more likely we are to have families. So, we think not only about how our transition will impact us, but also how it will change the lives of our loved ones. We might wait for our relatives to become more open-minded, to notice signs of our gender dysphoria, or even to initiate changes themselves. Yes, you heard that right. For them to make the first move. We don't want to harm anyone with our decisions. There are countless situations when we wait for others, for their understanding, for their approval, or for their actions. By doing so, we lose time. As parents, we want the best for our kids, and we don't want to harm them in any way. We might wait for them to grow up, hoping they will understand our transition when they are older. We fear they might be ashamed of us, or blame us for our decision. We want them to grow up in a traditional family, with mother and father. By transitioning, it can feel like we're taking something away from them. I completely understand these concerns, because I had the same fears before I made my decision. I have 2 kids. My younger one was only 3 when I realized I was a transgender woman. If I decided to wait for him to become an adult, it would have taken me at least 15 years before I could start my transition. On one hand, I had my assumptions and conservative beliefs. On the other, I had 15 years of my life. I won't lie, it was a hard choice for me to make. But in the end, it came down to letting go of assumptions and guesses. I do my best to give my kids love and care. They still have a parent who spends time with them, who supports and accepts them, and who is a friend. And I feel the same love, support, and acceptance from them. Was there any real reason to wait for 15 years before transitioning? No, the only thing holding me back was my own mental blocks. You might also worry about losing old friendships. With older of lifelong friends, it may be harder for them to adjust to seeing you differently. If you haven't already, I highly recommend watching the documentary Will and Harper. It's about a cisgender man, comedian Will Ferrell, who supports his friend Harper Steele through her transition. Their 30-year friendship continues to grow, despite the changes in Harper's life. Real friendship is based on emotional connection, support, and shared interests, not gender. You became and stayed friends because of what you have in common. Your transition doesn't change that, unless you decide it does. Yes, transitioning might challenge your friendships. It might require some adjustments, like using your chosen name and correct pronouns. But for true friends, those aren't impossible tasks. I also hear concerns about medical transition later in life, especially regarding health issues. Let me emphasize that I'm not a medical professional. If you have health concerns, you should consult your doctor first. I can only share my own experience and stories of other transgender people who transitioned later in life. Now let's talk about the medical aspect of transitioning. Puberty typically begins around the age of 11 and ends by 17. The last visible changes, like pelvic bone ossification, happen by 25. At that point, your body is fully developed, and the effects of your first puberty are set. However, HRT can significantly alter your soft tissues, skin, fat distribution, muscles, and ligaments. These changes can make a big difference in your appearance. You might see reduced body hair, breast tissue development, and softer, more delicate features. Would my medical transition be faster with better results if I'd started earlier? Probably. My skin might have been smoother, fat and muscle redistribution more feminine, and even my bone structure slightly different if I'd had started HRT at 18. Overall, I might have looked more like a cisgender woman, with fewer masculine features. But even starting later, I've seen many changes in my body. HRT has no age restrictions, and your body will change no matter how old you are. From my experience, I've learned that looking more like a cisgender woman is not only just about your body or face, it's also about how you dress, use makeup, carry yourself, and how you express femininity through gestures, posture, voice, and manners. These skills require effort and practice, but they aren't limited by age. I've met many transgender women who started transitioning in their 50s and 60s. They've mastered the art of being gracious, elegant, and feminine. Most people would never guess that they lived in wrong bodies for so much of their lives. Another common concern is transitioning at work. Many people transitioning later in life have been employed for many years, building relationships with their partners colleagues, and employers. It can feel risky to make such a drastic change. At the same time, dysphoria doesn't go away at work. It follows you everywhere, distracting and stressing during your job. Coming out at work is a challenge, but hiding your true identity and playing a role is even harder. If possible, look for support among your colleagues, HR, and management. If your workplace isn't supportive, consider seeking opportunities in more inclusive environments. Regardless of age, this can be a stressful period, but it's essential for your mental health. Sometimes I imagine how my life might have been if I started my transition earlier. These thoughts upset me, and I feel a twinge of regret, but then I look in the mirror. I see a tall, slightly muscular woman with narrow hips, broad shoulders, and some wrinkles. But I also see a happy, content woman, someone who doesn't have to hide, someone who presents herself publicly the way she wants to, someone who speaks openly and freely. I accept that I was born in a male body and didn't transition earlier for many reasons. I can't change the past, but I can choose to live an authentic and happy life now. Of course, we can find countless reasons not to transition. Age might be one of them, but it doesn't matter how much time you have left. You still have time, and only you can decide how to spend it. Waiting and sacrificing yourself, or living fully and enjoying your life. We came into this world alone, and so we will live it. It's only up to you how you will live in between. You have your past and your future, and there is no point of regretting of what you did or didn't do, and there is no reason to feel anxious about the future either. Here's a great quote that fits today's topic perfectly. If you're still breathing, it's not too late. What doubts or concerns are stopping you from transitioning? Or if you've already begun, what age did you start? Please share your stories and thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. Thank you for being with me. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and see you soon in my next video. Bye.